The captain's final voyage. The sea was calm, and the sky was clear as Captain William Harper stood at the helm of his vessel, the SS Oceanic Star. It was the final voyage of his illustrious career, a journey that would take him and his crew across the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. But little did Captain Harper know that this voyage would be unlike any other he had experienced before. As the ship set sail from the port of San Francisco, there was an air of excitement among the crew. Some were seasoned sailors, while others were fresh-faced recruits eager to prove themselves. But Captain Harper, with his years of experience, knew better than to let his guard down. He had seen his fair share of storms and mishaps at sea, and he had learned to respect the unpredictable nature of the ocean. The first few days of the voyage were uneventful, with the Oceanic Star making steady progress across the Pacific. But as they sailed further from land, strange things began to happen aboard the ship. Crew members reported hearing eerie noises in the dead of night, whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the vessel. Some claimed to have seen shadowy figures moving in the darkness, their forms fleeting and indistinct. Captain Harper dismissed these reports as nothing more than the product of an overactive imagination. He had no time for superstition or ghost stories, but as the days passed, the incidents aboard the Oceanic Star grew more frequent and more disturbing. One night, as Captain Harper lay in his bunk, he was awoken by the sound of footsteps echoing down the corridor outside his cabin. He sat up, his heart pounding in his chest, and listened intently. The footsteps drew nearer, growing louder with each passing moment, and then, abruptly, they stopped. Captain Harper swung his legs out of bed and crossed the room to the door. He hesitated for a moment, then flung it open and stepped out into the corridor. The hallway was empty, bathed in the dim glow of the ship's emergency lighting, but there was no sign of anyone else nearby. Shaking his head in disbelief, Captain Harper turned back towards his cabin. But as he did, he caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of his eye. A shadow, fleeting and insubstantial, darted across the hallway and vanished into thin air. A chill ran down Captain Harper's spine as he hurried back to his cabin and locked the door behind him. What was happening aboard his ship? Were these strange occurrences merely the product of an overactive imagination, or was there something more sinister at play? Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Captain Harper called a meeting of his senior officers the following morning. He recounted the strange events that had been taking place aboard the Oceanic Star and demanded an explanation. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, but none of them had any answers. Some suggested that the crew were simply suffering from fatigue and stress, while others whispered darkly about the possibility of supernatural forces at work. But Captain Harper refused to entertain such fanciful notions. There had to be a rational explanation for what was happening aboard his ship, and he was determined to find it. As the days passed, the incidents aboard the Oceanic Star only grew more frequent and more terrifying. Crew members began to disappear without a trace, their empty bunks the only clue to their whereabouts. Supplies went missing from the storerooms, and strange symbols were found scrawled on the walls of the ship's interior. Desperate for answers, Captain Harper ordered a thorough search of the vessel from bow to stern, but no matter how hard they looked, they found no sign of the missing crew members, or any explanation for the strange occurrences that plagued the Oceanic Star. As the ship continued on its course across the Pacific, Captain Harper felt a growing sense of unease gnawing at the edges of his mind. Something was terribly wrong aboard his vessel, and he feared that whatever it was far beyond his ability to control. And then, one fateful night, as the Oceanic Star sailed through the inky blackness of the open sea, disaster struck. Night, as the Oceanic Star sailed through the inky blackness of the open sea, disaster struck. A violent storm descended upon the ship with a ferocity that took even the most seasoned sailors by surprise. Waves the size of mountains crashed against the hull, threatening to tear the vessel apart. In the chaos that ensued, Captain Harper fought desperately to keep his ship afloat. But as the storm raged on, it became clear that his efforts were in vain. The Oceanic Star was no match for the fury of the sea, and it was only a matter of time before it succumbed to the relentless onslaught. As the ship began to sink beneath the churning waves, Captain Harper found himself staring out into the darkness, his heart heavy with regret. He had spent his entire life at sea, but now it seemed that his final voyage would also be his last. And then, just as all hope seemed lost, Captain Harper saw something that sent a shiver down his spine. Out in the darkness, amid the howling winds and crashing waves, he saw the faint outline of a ship. It was like nothing he had ever seen before, a ghostly apparition that seemed to materialize out of thin air. As Captain Harper watched in horror, the spectral ship drew nearer, its tattered sails billowing in the wind. And then, with a bone-chilling creak of timber, it vanished beneath the waves, leaving behind nothing but an eerie silence. In that moment, Captain Harper knew that he was not alone. Whatever had been haunting the Oceanic Star had followed him to the very depths of the ocean, and now it seemed that there was no escape. As the waters closed in around him, Captain Harper whispered a final prayer and surrendered himself to the embrace of the sea. And as the darkness swallowed him whole, he knew that his final voyage had come to an end. But the mystery of the Oceanic Star would live on, a legend whispered among sailors for generations to come. For more scary horror stories, please subscribe us.